Hilchos Matnos Aniyim Perek Shvi, the laws of gifts to the poor, chapter 7. From today, for the next 4 chapters, till the end of this set of laws, we're going to be dealing with one special mitzvah, the mitzvah of tzedakah. It takes different forms. Today we're going to be talking about cash tzedakah. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about pidyon shvuyim, redeeming captives, and other details as well.
You have the donation link available?
chabadso.com/donate if you want to fulfill today's Rambam. Especially it's Pesach, it's a time of giving. So definitely we'll put a little plug in there. I'll put it in the description. We'll put it in the description. Says the Rambam halacha aleph. Mitzvah saseh litein tzedakah la'aniyim. It's a positive mitzvah to give tzedakah to the poor. Kefi ma sheroi la'ani. The mitzvah is to give that which the poor person needs. In other words, you have to figure out his needs, and whatever he needs, that's what you have to give. Im hoysa yad hanoisen maseges. If the hand of the giver could afford it. In other words, there's 2 parts to the mitzvah here. You have to be able to afford it, but if you're able to afford it, you have to give whatever the poor person needs. And the Rambam will soon define what that means. Shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, actually a few psukim, and I think it's a little uncharacteristic, but for the next couple of chapters, we're going to see every day the Rambam is going to bring many psukim to support all the things that he mentions. So when it comes to tzedakah, here's what it says. Shenemar, where's my screen here? Yeah. Pasayach tiftach es yod chaloi. Open, you shall open. It says it in a double expression. Your hand to the poor people. V'nemar, it also says, v'hechazakta boy. You should hold on, support your brother. Ger, v'soyshav, v'chai imach, whether he's a convert or he's a resident. He should live with you. V'nemar, v'chei achicha imach, and it says in the same verse, or the next verse, your brother should live with you. There's a mitzvah to support fellow Jews, and they should be able to live. Halacha beis, so much so extreme is this mitzvah. V'chol haraya ani mevakesh. Anybody who sees a poor person requesting, asking for money, v'helim einav mimenu, and he purposely closed his eyes from him, v'loy nasan leitzedakah, and didn't give any charity, avar b'loy saseh. Not only has he not fulfilled a positive mitzvah, he has transgressed a negative mitzvah. Shenemar, it says over here, here's the next pasuk. This is a whole lot. We read this every holiday, every Yom Tif. It says, Ki yeh b'cha evyon, me'achad achecha ba'achad sharecha, when there's going to be a poor person in your gates. Lo te'ametz et levavcha. Don't harden your heart. V'lo sikpaitz es yadcha, and don't close your hand. Me'achicha ha'evyon, from your brother, the poor person. Clear mitzvah, couched as a negative commandment. No purposely closing your eyes from tzedakah. We were talking before the class about sometimes you only have so much you can give, and you gave everything you have, and then poor people are asking and you can't give them. That's not included in this. It means when you're purposely ignoring. Halacha gimel lefi ma shechaser ha'ani ata mitzuva liten loy. Tzedakah is not a you pick game, how much money you give. If you're dealing with an actual poor person, according to what he's lacking, that's what you're commanded to give him. Im ein lo ksus mechasim aisai. If what he's missing is clothing, cover him, give him clothes. Im ein lo klei bayis koinen loy. If he doesn't have household utensils, household articles, you buy it for him. Im ein lo isha masiyin aisai. If he's not married, tzedakah, part of tzedakah is making shidduchim. Part of tzedakah is helping somebody get married who's not married. V'im haisa isha masiyin aisai ish. If it was a woman who was missing a shidduch, then you marry her off to a man. Afilu, this is how extreme it gets. Afilu hayadarkei shel zeh ha'ani. Even if this poor person had a custom, he used to, lirkei val hasus ve'eved ratz lefanav, he used to ride on a horse, you see him on the horse, with a slave running in front of him, veheni ve'yarad min nechasav, and it happens to be that just now he became poor, went bankrupt, lost his property, koinin leisus lirkei valav ve'eved laretz lefanav. You have to buy a horse for him to ride, you have to buy a slave for him to run for him. You want to keep his same level of dignity.
Even if you don't have the same luxury, you have to provide him.
You have to provide it for him. Shenemar, as it says, the same verse as before. Let's go back. Dei machsoiroi asher yechsar loy. Enough for what he's lacking, and Torah repeats it. Asher yechsar loy, which is lacking for him. That means every person has an individual type of lacking. What's lacking for him is not lacking for you. The Talmud says that Hillel Hazaken, the great Hillel, he used to do that. He used to find rich people that became poor, and he would be the runner. He would run in front of them just to give them that tzedakah, that honor. On the other hand, the Rambam says, "Umitzuva ata lahashlim chesreinai." You're only commanded to fill his lacking. Ve'ein atam mitzuva le'ashrei. You're not commanded to make him rich. Bring him back to his previous state. You have no mitzvah to bring him back over and above his previous state. Halacha dalid yosem shabala asiya isha. If there's an orphan and you're helping him get married, that's your way of tzedakah, you should do more. You shouldn't just find him a wife. He has no other way to support himself. Rent him a house, get him a bed with all of his household needs that he needs. And then you marry him off. In other words, tzedakah also, you have to take it in context. If you're just going to do this one act and it's not really going to help him because you're going to make him more problems than you're solving, then you have to solve all the problems. Halacha hey, all this that we learned before is if you could afford it. Comes the poor person, he's asking for his needs, not asking for more. Asking you to fill his needs, but you don't have the money. The giver can't afford it. Then you give whatever you could afford. How much is the maximum that you can give? The ideal mitzvah, says the Rambam, the choice mitzvah, is to give up to a fifth of your property, 20%. The echad me'asara bin nechasav beinani. If you give 10% of your property, you're average guy, you're a middle guy. Paches mikan ayin ra'a. Less than 10%, you have a bad eye. Can you imagine? Most Americans don't even give 1% to charity. We have to educate the Jewish people to give 10%. 10% is at least average, to be an average Jew.
They want to give 10% because they're not educated and they think that they're going to lose money.
Yeah.
The nechasav's coming with it, but you have to tell them.
Aser b'shvil shatis asher. Talmud says you have to give 10%, you become rich. Ula'olam, even if you want to be a Jew with a bad eye, says the Rambam always, lo yimna atzmei mishlishis hashekel bashana. You should give no less than a third of a shekel every year. They say over here it comes to about 7 grams of silver. It's a tiny amount. If you give less than that per year, you haven't done the mitzvah. Says the Rambam, even if there's a poor person who himself is being supported from tzedakah, he has a mitzvah to give tzedakah. This is a circle of Jewish giving. Every single Jew can find somebody else you can give to. Halacha vav. Ani she'ein makirin oisei. There's a poor person, rolls into shul, you don't know who he is. Happens all the time, right? People come from Israel, they want to get tzedakah. V'amar, and he says, Roiv ani hachiluni. Says, I'm hungry. Can I have some food? Give me food. Ein bait ken achar av shema ramayu. You don't do background check. No background check on hungry Jews. You feed him right away. If he was naked and he says, cover me, I need clothes, can you imagine? You have to do a background check. Maybe he's a liar. Before you give him clothes, yeah, you're allowed to, isn't it? You have to. You're allowed to. Huh? I mean, I'm saying if you don't have extra.
So why clothes different?
Huh?
Why clothes different?
Because food is essential to survival. Food you have to survive. Clothes you don't need to survive. It's embarrassment. That's something else. If you did know him, no checking. If he comes to your door naked, you don't start asking, wait, hold on. I know you yesterday. Yesterday you had clothes. What happened today? No questions. If you know him, you give him clothes right away with no checking. Halacha zayin, mefarnesin umechasin aniyei ibdekechavim umazoles im aniyei Yisrael. We feed and we clothe poor people from the non-Jews, the idol-worshipping Gentiles, together with the poor people of the Jewish people, to keep the peace. And there's a debate in the commentaries how you translate this word, im aniyei Yisrael. Im could either mean together with, that means only if you're feeding Jews, you can also feed non-Jews with them, or im means in addition to. In other words, if a Gentile comes alone, you can feed him also alone. That's the accepted interpretation. That as long as a Jew is giving tzedakah to keep the peace, you should also give tzedakah to goyim as well. When there's a poor person, a poor Jew, who is going around door to door, you don't have to give him a great gift, because you know he's going around to door to door. He's going to collect from here, from all the doors. You should give him a small gift. It's forbidden to turn away a poor person who asks for money empty-handed. Whatever it is, you give him a tiny dry fig, give him something. Shenemar, it says in Tehillim, Al Yoshev Dach Nichlam. Do not return a poor person in an embarrassed way. You never want a poor person knocking on your door to turn away embarrassed. Halacha Ches. What we had in the last halacha was when there's a poor person that's going from door to door in the city. But what if you have a different kind of poor person? Ein peichasin la'ani ha'oiver mimakim la'makim. If you have a poor person who's traveling from place to place, in other words, he's coming to you, you're the last stop before his trip. He's taking a trip from place to place. So you should not give him less mikikar echad hanimkar bepundyain keshahayu hachitim arba sein besela. You shouldn't give him less than a loaf of bread that's worth a pundyain when wheat, the rate of wheat, was 4 sa'ah per sela. So look at this picture just to clarify it, okay? These are the different types of coins in halakhic times. You have a sela, it's the biggest silver coin. A sela is worth 4 dinar. A dinar is worth 6 ma'ah. A ma'ah is worth 2 pundyans. So in other words, every dinar is 12 pundyans. Every sela is 48 pundyans. Okay? Now, when the rate of currency is 4 sa'ah flour per sela, that's the biggest unit. The biggest unit can get you 4 sa'ah of sela. From the 4 sa'ah, you make multiple different loaves, to the point that every loaf is sold for a pundyan. It's basically a tiny amount. So that's what you should give the poor person. A loaf of bread worth a pundyan at a time when 4 sa'ah of wheat go for a sela. If wheat is cheaper, then you should give more. If wheat's more expensive, you give less. I'll just put in the pictures later manually, okay? Shine. We already explained all of the measurements, what I showed you on the screen, the different coinage, how it equals out, and that's what the Rambam means. If the poor person is going to spend overnight, besides for the loaf of bread, you have to give him a sheet to sleep on, of a pillow to put under his head, oil, and some legumes for snacks. If he spends the Shabbos, you have to give him enough for 3 meals, because every Jew has to eat 3 meals on Shabbos. Plus oil, plus legumes, and fish and vegetables. If they knew who the guy was, you give him according to his honor. You give him enough, give him better food.
Shabbos, just
yeah, if he spends Shabbos. No, Lon spends the night, Shabbos spends Shabbos. If there's a poor person who he's too proud, doesn't want to take tzedakah, but you have to support him. So you make a trick. Give him as a gift or a free loan, and then don't ask for it back. If you have a rich person who purposely starves himself and he's stingy with his money, doesn't eat, doesn't drink, we know such people, we don't care about him. The Jewish community doesn't have responsibility to rich people who are stingy. Let them take care of themselves, figure out their own problems. Halacha Yud, if there was a Jew who doesn't want to give tzedakah, you're going to like this halacha. Maybe in Iran they did this. Or he gives less than what he should. Beis din koifin oisai, umakin oisai makas mardus, ad sheyitin mashamdu litain. The court goes in, they estimate how much he can afford to give, and until he gives what he needs to give, they're going to whip him. They force him and they whip him. They go down to his possessions, to his real estate, and they take away, they confiscate that which he has to give. That's how powerful the Jewish court was. Every Jew has to give tzedakah. If you're not giving, we're going to come and intervene. I'm sure back in the days, the Talmud talks about it. You're able to force people to give tzedakah.
Why only by this mitzvah? Let's say someone he doesn't want to put on tefillin. Would they go force to put on tefillin?
No.
Right, that's a good
No, because that's between him and Hashem.
Why tzedakah do that?
Because by tzedakah is between you and other people. Your responsibility to your fellow Jews is so great that we're going to come in and intervene. You can even forcefully take collateral for tzedakah. Va'afilu ba'arvei Shabbosis, even on Fridays when it's a very busy time, and you got to do what you got to do. No tzedakah, you come into your house and take your stuff. Halacha Yud Aleph Adam Shoya. The court has to also be responsible. If there's a person who's being too generous, he's giving more than what he should, and more in a damaging way. Or he is being stingy on himself and giving the collectors tzedakah just not to be embarrassed. They have these stories even today. This person that's supposed to be rich, he really lost a bunch of money, but he maintains his lifestyle or his tzedakah giving, doesn't want to be embarrassed. Asur l'tavai b'ligbas mimenu tzedakah. Once you find out, it's forbidden to demand from him. It's forbidden to go over them and ask him for tzedakah. V'gabay shemachlimai v'shoel mimenu, any tzedakah collector who purposely embarrasses him and asks him for tzedakah, asidli hi para mimenu. Hashem is going to pay back from the guy. Shanamar, it says in the verse, Ufakadati al kol leichatzav. I'm going to bring punishment on those who pressure. Sometimes asking for tzedakah is too much pressure. You have to know when to ask and who to ask. Halacha Yud Beis. Ein poiskin tzedakah al hayasaymim ba'afilu lepidyon shvuyim. We don't impose a pledge on orphans to give tzedakah, even if we're collecting for pidyon shvuyim. Orphans in the community, you leave them alone. Even if they have a lot of money, we don't come force it onto them. If they want to volunteer, it's fine, but we don't put the responsibility on them. But if the judge knew that they had a lot of money, and he decided to make them give a pledge so that they'll get famous, people will know, like, this is, they'll honor them, mutter, then it's allowed, because you're doing it for a good purpose. When collectors for tzedakah come, from women, from slaves, from kids, they should only accept small donations, not big donations. If a kid gives you a $100 bill, he probably stole it from somebody, or stole it from his parents. Gneva gezel, robbed or stolen. Women, so today the commentaries discuss it, because today many women are making their own money, right? The career women. So there may be some room to be different.
I think today you can say the other way. Unless you know for sure, like someone that gives big amounts of money. If someone comes to you and gives you a lot of money, you should assume that it's like...
Even a man gives you a lot of money. Even a man, I have $100,000 to give you, Rabbi, I want to give $100,000.
No, this is what's good.
Exactly.
Then I take it to close eyes.
Rabbi, I suggest you take it. Rabbi, take it. Rabbi, just take
It's kosher money. It's kosher money. I promise you. I promise.
I'm not going to question it.
Don't ask.
V'kama hu mu'at shalahen. How much is considered a little bit? What's considered too much for a woman, for a slave, for a child? Hakoil lifi oisher habaylim v'aniyusan. It all goes according to their husband or their owner. It's basically a contextual thing. You figure out their financial standing, and that's how much you can take. Yud gimel anishahu kreivay kreidum l'chaladam. If you have a poor person who's your relative, he comes before everybody. Aniyei beisay kreidmin la'aniyei iray. Poor people in your household come before local poor people. Aniyei iray kreidmin la'aniyei iracheres. Local poor people come before people of other cities. Shanamar, because it says in the Torah, this is the order: le'achicha, la'aniyecha, ule'avyencha ba'artzecha. First your brother, that's your relatives. Aniyecha, your poor people, that's people in your city. Avyencha ba'artzecha, that's the poor people in your land. They're the last. The Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya that nevertheless, poor people from Israel come before everybody.
That's exactly
Even before your own household.
Yes.
So even before your own household. Yudalid, Misha halach b'schayra, upasku alav anshe ha'ir shehalach sham tzedakah. A person took a trip for business, and the city where he went to, they made him promise to give tzedakah. This was, the commentary said, this was actually a custom in those days. If you went somewhere else to make business, that means you benefited from that city's business. So part of the tax almost was that you have to give tzedakah from whatever you make over there. To that city. So the Rambam says, then indeed, if you went to do business, you have to give the money to the people of that city. But if they were a majority. So I'm going to first give you one explanation. One commentary here is Rabbi means the majority of one city went to another city. Not sure how this happens, but it was a huge business trip, okay? The whole city got up and they moved over there to do business. Upasku alei and tzedakah, so if people in that city made they imposed the pledge of tzedakah, so here, if they're going to give all the money in that city, they're the majority of this city. So all the poor people in this city are not going to get any money. So there's an exception. Noisnin, they have to give the money, in other words, they have to write the check, but when they come back, they take the money with them, and they support the people in their city, because there's no other way. That's one interpretation. Other interpretations say Rabbi means even 3 people. Even 3 people, if they're in a group, they don't owe that local city money, they have to give tzedakah, but it has to become
So according to this,
come back to their
in
city.
this case, they wouldn't even give it more than 20%. Let's say over there they said you have to give 20%. So if they give 20% over there,
Yeah.
so they still have to come back and give to the Aniyim.
No, the point is like this. You don't get to choose. If you made 100 grand in that city, whatever that city's law of tzedakah is, that's how much you
20% you have to give.
let's say 20%, 20%.
So
bring it back
20,000.
home.
So you have to give 20,000.
Yes, but you give the money when you come back home.
You bring it back home
You don't give the 20% over there, you give it back to your home.
Oh, so you don't give over there.
Exactly.
for the pledge you made.
For the pledge. The point is that the pledge is decided by the rate of that city. But it's fulfilled.
Be careful, you don't
Exactly.
travel anymore.
V'im yesham chever ir, yitnu ala chever ir. If there's a communal sage, they should give it to the sage. V'hu mechalka kamei she'yira aloi, and he'll split it up as he sees fit. Tesvav. Ha'omer, if somebody says, tnu masayim dinar lebeis hakneses. Give $200 to the shul. Or tnu sefer Torah lebeis hakneses, or donate a Torah scroll to the shul. It's a pretty big disparity. $200 and a Torah scroll is $50,000. But the point is, he didn't say which shul. Yitnu lebeis hakneses shehu ragil boi. They have to give it to the shul that he is used to going. We had a whole story here. You know, there's a Torah scroll that we have here in the shul that came from Israel. There was a lady who lived here for about 20 years. She moved to Israel, and she began going to a different shul.
And she wants his,
And then the Neshei Chabad, the women's organization in Israel, wrote a Torah scroll in honor of the Rebbe's cousin, and they said anybody who gives 10 grand is going to go into the raffle and can choose where the Torah scroll goes. So this lady from our community, she gave $10,000. She won the raffle.
wow.
And she said, I want it to come here. And it wasn't so simple, because the shul that she went to was in Israel. And then Sheikh Chabad was in Israel. They didn't want to come to California. They wanted to stay in Israel. But in the end,
But you refer to this.
huh? I don't know. I wasn't involved. I was a kid when it happened. But this is what it says. You have to give it to the shul that they're used to going.
I know the person.
You know who it is, right? Okay. Oh, V'may ragel b'shnayim. What if he goes to two shuls? So the Rambam says, Yitnu lishneihem. You give it to both. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to give twice the donation. The commentaries say, if it's the money, case of $200, so you give 100 here, 100 there. If it's a Torah scroll, what do? You divide it. Yes. You read it over here a little bit, then you bring it to the other shul, you read it over there. Same Torah, you have to transfer. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you half of the money to the shul, half of the money.
Oh, so if you didn't write the Torah, then yeah, then you can give half the money. But if you already had the Torah, then yeah. Also, I think in those days, the Torah scrolls were much more common because every person had to write one. There was no printed books, so it was easier to just move around Sefer Torah. Probably cheaper, yeah. Ha'omer, if somebody says, Tnu masayim dinarin la'aniyim, give $200 to the poor. Who's the poor? Yitnu la'aniyim isa ha'ir. The halacha is, by default, you give to the poor people in that city. Because again, your city comes before anybody. So if he said to the poor means in Sherman Oaks.